Corey and Thomas and now Ted, and then Paul and Ralph are next. I'm right in the middle of these guys, so I'll have to shorten mine up a little bit. So I'm Tom Burke, and I'm the president of the OPC Foundation. I started OPC in 1995, so I've been doing this a really long time. But the importance of what we're doing and partnering with FieldComm and the work that we did in FDI really is the basis for future generation systems and also tying all the legacy systems in of the past. One of my whole goals is to make sure we have, a consistent information integration and interoperability. And the beauty of what we've been doing lately is driven by a lot of my colleagues, and particularly in areas like MDIS, and we're going to talk about open process automation, and the great work that the end users and the suppliers are really working on to define what I call a common data model, or common objects and common attributes and behavior behind the different objects. The whole concept of standardization actually, is a result of things like MDIS that Ralph's going to talk about, and the work on open process automation, and across all industries. And I think the work that we're doing specifically with FDI and what we've done, is a test of this, the commitment to the end users and the suppliers really understanding the value of interoperability and really understanding that we need to do this for a lot of reasons, primarily for areas of reducing complexity of systems, making systems a lot easier to use and intuitive, providing a very smooth way for commissioning and for training. I mean, you go out on a rig, or you go out on something like the Prelude, that stuff better work going out there. You don't want to have to, send a multitude of suppliers and stuff out there making this thing work after it's already been commissioned 130 miles offshore. There's no way. You want to make all this stuff work out of the box, and that's really the theme behind this. So the whole concept of the ARCs, and the work that they've been doing, and specifically this forum, and thank you, Andy, for the excellent job you and your staff have done choreographing this event. I mean, this is the biggest ARC event that I've been at in my history, with the number of, attendees and the suppliers and, all the end users as sponsors to this thing. And it's all about really, I think, us all understanding the value proposition and really looking forward to the digital age and what we're trying to do. So with OPC UA, I can say it in 7 seconds. What is it? It's multi-vendor, multi-platform, secure, reliable, information integration from the sensor to the cloud. The most important part of that whole equation is information. We provide connectivity, we provide ability to allow complex organizations to model their information in a seamless fashion. The partnership with FieldComm is specific to addressing that accordingly. When we first started a lot of the work in the early days of FieldComm and with OPC UA, we started in 2004 actually taking a look at the EDDL technology and how we could model this into a UA architecture that we were just getting to develop at that time. But the whole concept behind it was, was the partnership really between, Foundation Field Bus and HART and Profibus and FDT and OPC, looking at a mechanism to standardize that EDL technology into a common framework. Ultimately, we continue to work on this over a period of time. We developed OPC UA. It's an IEC standard, 62541, and it became an integral part of the IEC standard for FDI as well, which is 62679. And this has continued to evolve over time, but it's really been driven by more of the end user's recognition of, we want to go do this. And if you look back in time, there was an organization in Germany that represents the end users called NMR. They were the driving force behind this. They really are the ones that said, we want interoperability, we want standardization of device types and things and going forward. So the latest thing we've done now is really the embracement of what are we doing with Industry 4.0? What are we doing with the Industrial Internet Consortium? And how does this fit into this whole Industrial Internet of Things paradigm that everybody and their brother is talking about? If you take a look at all the knockoffs of Industry 4.0 from a regional perspective, I mean, in France it's Industry of Future, in Korea it's the MMI, right? And the list keeps going on, but they're all looking for how do we embrace the Industrial Internet of Things, and more importantly, how do we take, as Ted mentioned, big data, and how do you take this into the next digital age with standardization of data and not have a lot of different things out here that are all disparate that don't know how to talk together and that you can't talk together in a seamless fashion. So it's all about interoperability of what we're doing. So it's a cooperation that's been going on for a long time, but as we're taking it really to the next level now, as Ted said, it's really truly about recognizing the needs of the oil and gas community and the process community and the manufacturing community. And a lot of these initiatives really driven by the end user companies. It's the big oil companies, right, that really are recognizing and really driving, you know, they want open systems. They want systems that are easily plug and play and working together. Common thing that we always talk about when OPC first started, you know, it stood for OLE, for process control, and yes, I can say that, and that was, you know, object linking embedding, and if you know what object linking embedding is, you know DDE, you're older than me, and let it go at that. But the concept of OPC UA is about platform independence now. It's about open system. You know, we're an open standard, our technology is open source, our certification program is available to members and non-members. As a consequence of, you know, driving that kind of thing, that allows us to collaborate with a lot of other organizations, and specifically collaborating with FieldCom along with many other organizations allows us to model that complex information and be able to take that from the embedded world into the cloud. And that's the whole architecture behind what we've seen. So we've built a very abstract architecture that allows what I call timeless durability, and it works with the legacy systems of yesterday and the systems of tomorrow. So whatever the technology is and whatever your favorite field bus is underneath, and obviously it should be Foundation Field Bus or HART. Okay, maybe Profibus too, because my colleague from Siemens, right? And of course, there's somebody in here from Rockwell, so I got to embrace, you know, ODVA and things like that. But the concept is, when OPC started, we essentially put an infrastructure in place that allowed all the, you know, field buses to work together. Now we're doing the same thing in the IoT world, right? Everybody talks about their favorite IoT protocol. I don't care if it's AMQP or MQTT or HTTPS or DDS, and there's a list of probably 30 out there that I know of personally. Well, OPC UA basically builds on top of those things and adds the session and application layer on top of the raw communication IoT protocol, giving you information integration interoperability. And it gives you it in a secure fashion, and that's the whole architecture of what we're trying to do. So with that, my favorite video I'm about to show from my colleague over there, Michael Bone, and he's the man behind the scenes. So I want to talk a little bit about, this is what is OPC UA in 60 seconds.
What is OPC? OPC UA is an open standard that specifies information exchange for industrial communication, particularly on devices within machines, between machines, and from machines to systems in a convergence of IT and OT. It can be used with any software platform, Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, well, you get the picture. And this makes OPC UA scalable, from minimal embedded controllers to massive cloud infrastructures, even mobile devices. OPC UA is equally suited in a closed network or utilized via the internet. Don't worry though, security is baked into the protocol for access control, authentication, and encryption. Because of its flexibility, OPC UA has been widely adopted in industries like automotive, food and beverage, oil and gas, energy and utilities, packaging, building automation, and so on. So, as manufacturing moves into the Industrial Internet of Things Industry 4.0 realm, OPC UA is already poised to fulfill the requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's kind of our quick 60-second introduction to OPC UA. It's on our homepage, and you know, my colleagues over at FieldCom have done a really nice video as well that, you know, leverages. Matter of fact, we're going to work together on some things in the future. So the importance of what we're doing, again, goes back to that information modeling concept, and this is the true bridge that allows the IIoT industry and that whole solution to work from the embedded world to the cloud. We've partnered with a lot of different organizations. We actually have partnered with every field bus organization out there. We're partnering with, more importantly, a lot of the other organizations that actually do information modeling, and this allows, the whole compatibility of what we're doing in terms of really providing a nice uniform way of having a standardized set of devices. So with the work we're doing, particularly FDI evolving into FieldComm and the work that we're doing with MDIS and the open process automation, this truly will drive standardization across the different data models, really enabling a very high-speed level of interoperability. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about MDIS, and I think, Paul, you're going to take over next here, or I think I'm going into that. But MDIS is one of the key things in our architecture that Ralph and Paul are going to talk about. And this is really the tight cooperation, with the oil and gas community. And I want to talk a little bit about our information model architecture and how FieldComm and OPC fit into this. So from an OPC UA perspective, what we really do is OPC UA defines the how. It defines the mechanism to allow all these information model organizations and the MDIS and the open process automation to actually define their data, and they really define what I call the what of the systems, and those are the experts. So our architects basically builds on top of what I call a meta model, and then OPC has some built-in information types necessary, and one of the ones we do is known as our device interface, which is intended to be something that's very generic and actually works across all the different types of physical devices and assets that are out there. And this is a commonality and harmonization. The work that we're doing specifically with FieldComm takes a lot of the things that they've already done and now models that into a standard way such that, all the other field bus organizations can then play on top of this and play in this in a standard way. In addition to that, we've built on top of that device interface the ability to have what's known as the companion specifications or companion information models. And these give us, through our collaborations, a mechanism to take that FDI data that Ted talked about and all the MDIS data that Ralph's going to talk about, and gives it in a way that you can take your standard off-the-shelf, God forbid I'm going to say this, but I have to, Microsoft Excel would be able to understand the devices out there without having any knowledge of it. And that's the beauty of information modeling. It's truly plug-and-play, secure interoperability, allowing such silly applications like Microsoft Excel to be able to look at all these devices and understand and be able to configure and do runtime operations with that. So that really is the whole premise behind UA, which is the unified architecture. So our big thing that we're doing, obviously, is collaborations driving that force, and that really allows into that. So building on top of that, well, we could just have FDI and we could have HART and, a foundation field bus just have their own companion information models that sits on top of FDI. And we looked at that, and Ted and I talked over a couple bottles of wine one day and said, we got a better idea how to do this. Instead of having these multiple different ways to do it, representing each different field bus out there, why don't we do something as simple as, how do we standardize on that stuff, right? And why do we need to have a protocol-specific model? Because that's really suboptimal. Why don't we really look at a strategy that actually takes Profibus and HART and Foundation Field Bus and puts it into something that we'll call process automation? So what we're doing here actually is building a process automation specification that actually takes all those devices and process automation, and guess what we've just done? We've standardized across all the different field buses and process automation. And that's the intention of the partnership between OPC and FieldComm to take FDI to the next level. So if you think about what we've done, we've eliminated the field bus wars again, but in a different way. Now we're eliminating the field bus wars when you start thinking about data and information integration. And now we'll be able to have very neutral applications that understand nothing about the protocols, they understand nothing about the devices, but we'll have seamless, secure interoperability. We'll be able to take a lot of the legacy systems out there and map them generically right into the OPC UA architecture, and we're actually going to map those right into, a lot of them, right into the meta model or into the device model of the OPC UA architecture by definition. So that's a very exciting thing that I think we've done. I tried to cover a lot of ground very quickly. I thank my colleagues, though, for the great work that they've been doing. You know, OPC is made up of a lot of small companies out there, but we're also made up of a lot of major companies. You know, the small companies, you know, include, you know, Microsoft and SAP and Honeywell and Yokogawa and Iconics and Beckhoff, and you get the direction. These are guys that are on my board of directors that keep me busy and a driving force. And it's been a very exciting, challenging time over since 1995. But the idea is interoperability is here to stay. Now we're really working collectively with the end users to think about information and think about information in a seamless plug-and-play fashion. With that, I'm going to turn over to Paul, who'll go through the details behind the scenes on MDIS.